A lot of photographers search for that perfect film camera. It has to be something compact and easy enough to take everywhere with you, but at the same time it's got to deliver stunning image quality. And I guess that goes some way to explain the enormous popularity of cameras like the Mamiya 7 and the Hasselblad X-Pan in recent years. But what about the Fuji GA645 Professional? Does that fit the bill? Well, yes and no. Find out why in my review. The Fuji GA645 Professional was brought out in 1995. It's a compact medium format camera which you can shoot in completely automatic settings. So you can switch it to program mode and off you go. Auto exposure, autofocus, fantastic. It takes both 120 film and 220 film. Inside the film back door, there's a little plate there. It probably set at the moment to 120, but if you load up some 220, just slide that across. It makes a subtle change to the pressure of the back plate, and away you go. You can shoot 220 as well. The Fuji GA645 captures images in 645 format. That's right, 6 centimeters by 4.5 centimeters. Although the size of the negative, the image on the negative, is actually slightly smaller. It's around 56 mm by 42 mm when you take into account the film rebate area. The camera has an excellent Fujinon 60mm f4 lens, which in 35mm terms is about the same equivalence of a 35mm lens at f2.8. Let's talk about 6 things I love about this camera. Number 1, it's compact and lightweight. This camera has a footprint that is so much smaller than a lot of other medium format cameras. You can shoot with it one-handed, it's easy to sling over your shoulder and walk about town with. It's really nice, really compact. Just about the only other cameras I can think of that are so small would be a Rolleiflex TLR or one of those really old 30s or 40s cameras that folds up. A lot of other medium format cameras are bigger than this. Number 2, it's easy to use. There's no mucking about with changing film backs or using dark slides. Just load up your film, put it into program mode, away you go. Point, shoot, take the pictures, done. It's fantastic, very easy to use. Number 3, it's versatile. Yes, you can put it in program mode, go point and shoot and have a great old time, but you can also shoot in my favorite mode, aperture priority mode. Set it to f4, f5.6, whatever you want, and go around, shoot that way. And you can also shoot in full manual mode, which is fantastic. You can select the shutter speed, you can select the aperture, you can even, through this dial on the top here, you can even select your focus distance. So it really is very versatile, and I think that's why it's got the word professional on here. It was a camera that was aimed at professionals. Number 4, it has stunning image quality. Of course, Fujifilm are known for their excellent optics, excellent lenses, which continues to this day with the X series line and the GFX line. Instax mini cameras, not so much. The lens on this camera is fantastic. It's sharp, it has beautiful color rendition and contrast, and when you take portraits at say f4, there's a beautiful pleasing bokeh in the background, so I think it's got something for everyone. Number 5, the viewfinder is in portrait orientation. I absolutely love that. I think one of the only other cameras I have, besides my Instax Mini, which does this, is the Olympus Pen FT. Now, I know it's only a little thing, but when you have a viewfinder in portrait orientation, you kind of see the world completely differently, and it kind of forces you to look at compositions and scenes differently, and I absolutely love that. So I'm a real big fan of the vertical viewfinder. Number 6, it's fun because it's compact, because it's easy to use, because it's got this vertical viewfinder. Load your film up and go and take loads of images with it. It really is a fun camera to put in your bag and shoot with. 2 things I'm not so keen on. Number 1 is the fixed lens. Yes, I know the whole reason it is so compact and so lightweight is because of this fixed lens. And it is a beautiful lens, a beautiful sharp, great color rendition, everything's great. However, for me, the focal length is maybe not quite long enough. So when I shoot with my Pentax 645, I really like the 75mm lens. This is only a 60mm lens, so it's a 35mm point of view. Look, it's good. I don't know, I just feel like I want it to be a little bit, zoomed in a little bit more. So I think a longer focal length would work better for me personally. Number two is the focus. Okay, this is an autofocus camera. You can use it in manual focus mode. However, I used it for all these shots, I used it in autofocus. I did feel like with this camera, I missed probably 1 or 2 shots per roll. Now that's not diabolical. It's not the end of the world, right? 1 or 2 shots per roll, but you're only getting 15 shots per roll. And quite often I took images with this camera, was really looking forward to seeing the images back. Perhaps it was a portrait of one of my family members or something like that. And I got the images back and I was a little bit disappointed. A couple of those images, which were quite close up, you know, the focus either missed or the depth of field perhaps wasn't wide enough. I don't know, I had some couple of disappointing results with it. And like I said, it wasn't diabolical, it wasn't a disaster, I just felt a little bit disappointed. So let's check out the images now from the 4 rolls of film I shot with this camera. Now, all of the pictures I shot with the camera and all of the video that you see was shot in January 2022, more than 18 months ago. So here we go, I'm going to describe them all for you now. We're starting off here with a lovely portrait of my daughter. This is indoors in her bedroom. This looks absolutely fantastic. It looks so super sharp. I really love this. I think it looks fantastic. And yeah, this is a really great camera for shooting portraits with. The next couple are also of her. Here she is outdoors, looking a bit moody. But you know, she's a teenager. She's allowed to be a bit moody. But look at the colors here. The greens look fantastic. I really like that one. The next one here, look at the skin tones. They look absolutely fantastic. And I've never been a huge fan of Portra 160, but here you go. Right here, you can see how amazing it is. And I think this was shot at maybe f4, and you can see the background. It really is suited to shooting portraits. It looks really, really good there. The next one also looks good, the side-on view, and yeah, the autofocus is good. I feel like the autofocus here, perhaps the hair looks like it's in very sharp focus, and maybe her eyes aren't, but maybe that was a part user error rather than camera error. Who knows? The next couple here are out and about in Cleveland. This is a picture of some frangipanis. This is the kind of colors I quite often get from Portra 160 in Queensland, bright outdoor sort of shots. And yeah, I'm not a massive fan of this film for these kind of shots. Here is an old house in Cleveland. Really love those windows. Had windows like that when I was a kid in our old house. The next one is an old shed. Again, I really like the colors here. They sort of tend to be a little bit more on the paler side, you know, the light blues here and the reds, but I do really like that. This next frangipani shot was taken in my street, and yeah, with the focus here, I was clearly too close for the camera to lock onto those flowers. So there is a bit of a minimum focus distance. You've got to bear that in mind. And so this shot was kind of ruined by me not doing that. Next up is the roll of Portra 400 shot during a very hot summer week. Here is my beautiful wife looking fantastic. She's looking a little bit hot and bothered because it was very humid. That was taken at Fort Lytton. I really love that shot. But look at the next one. I tried to take one in quick succession and the camera has locked onto the wall behind my wife's head there. So unfortunately that was one of the ones which was kind of ruined by either me not understanding the focus or the focus locking onto the wrong subject. The next one is at a favourite stop of mine on the way down to Warwick in Queensland. It is the Maryvale Roadhouse. I think the light just wasn't quite as good as other times I've been there. So although this looks great and that's, you know, petrol Bowser, gas Bowser is in perfect sharp focus. Yeah, I just don't like the colours as much as some other ones I've taken there. The next one is my daughter looking magnificent at the tennis courts in Stanthorpe. Looks really great, a really nice portrait there. And the last one was part of the tennis court. I really just like the shapes and colors here for that one. And finally, I've got some images from 2 rolls of Portra 800. So first up, we have the Gelato place in Wynnum. I really like this one. I think this was taken at like something like 1/30th of a second or something like that. It's just the sun's gone down a little while ago and the nice lights are there inside the shop, but you have got the blue sky as well. So I really like that one. I think it turned out really nice and sharp and beautiful. The next one is just some power lines. I like the geometric shapes of that. And you can see a bird in the bottom right hand corner and a few of the clouds there. The next one was a house somewhere in Cleveland. The flowers right in the dead of the center of the frame, they are in focus, but a lot of other parts of those flowers are not in focus. So perhaps I should have shot that at f8 or something like that. This is a laneway that I've shot numerous times. It's not the best shot I've ever taken here, but it's in focus and it turned out pretty good. Here is my daughter again in her bedroom, and she looks great. These next two were taken on a walk we did in the summer to Springbrook National Park. Beautiful place with a magnificent waterfall, really nice walk. And we got to this place and look at this. This is magnificent. Look at those beautiful trees and that rock face. I really love that image. And the next one, you can just see one of the waterfalls there. That looks absolutely fantastic. I love the line of trees above the waterfall and all those beautiful trees in the foreground as well. And to finish off, we have a few images out and about in Brisbane. We have this one at Raby Bay of this car. Not great composition, but nevertheless, I think the camera's done a pretty good job. It's in focus and it looks good. The next one is at West End, the gelato place in West End. Yeah, this looks fantastic. Look at those lights. It's quite dull, like the lighting, it's not very bright or anything, but the exposure is really good here and it's nice and sharp. Looks fantastic. Here is that alleyway again that I showed you earlier in Wynnum. So this is when it's dark, and this one looks really good. You can see the mural there really nicely and those fairy lights. It looks very cool. And the last image is just on the bay here at Wynnum. And look at those sunset colors, all the nice pinks and blues. It looks really fantastic. A couple of tips for using the GA645 Professional. Number one is don't forget to take the lens cap off. Of course, this is a rangefinder style camera, so the viewfinder here is not coupled with the lens. You're not looking through the lens. So if you don't take the lens cap off, it's entirely possible that you could go around shooting images with the lens cap on. So make sure you put this somewhere safe and go shoot without it. And the other tip, make sure you think about the autofocus and that minimum focus distance. You want to make sure that if you are taking a portrait up close and you're using a wide aperture like f4 or f5.6, you want the subject in focus. And that's something that I missed a couple of times. And certainly if I was going to run any more rolls through this camera, I would certainly be trying to work on that next time. So who is this camera for? I think if you're the kind of person who loves getting out in the streets and taking street portraits, or your friends or strangers, I think this is a fantastic camera. It's so compact, sling it over your shoulder, have it in your hand, walk around everywhere and take portraits of people. It's not intimidating, it's really small and fun to use, so I think it really is good. The next kind of people who I think would love this camera is travel photographers. If you're traveling or hiking or on a road trip somewhere, this is a great compact camera that will give you that medium format quality that you can sling in your bag and take out, on beautiful sunny days, shoot at f8 and get everything in perfect focus, perfect sharpness. Excellent camera to use for those kind of travel photos. So I think, yeah, it's definitely one to consider. And the last lot of people who might enjoy this camera is people who enjoy shooting at night. It's got that beautiful leaf shutter. You can really handhold this camera at much slower shutter speeds than you could, say, an SLR. So, load portrait 800 up in this camera, put it on f4 and go shoot at night at 1/30th of a second. You'll get some fantastic results. Is this the right camera for me? Look, I've wanted this camera for a long time and I've been so blessed to have been sent this on loan by Paul Wheeler. Thank you so much, Paul. However, I feel like it isn't the right camera for me anymore. And I'll tell you why. When I go on a road trip or when I travel, I might have a couple of digital cameras. I'll always have like a Polaroid SX70 on me. I might have a compact 35mm camera. And so, there's not that much room in my bag because I've got digital, I've got instant, and I want, either 35 or 120 in there as well. A camera, to earn a place in my bag, it's got to be compact and it's got to be very versatile. Although it is versatile, I kind of feel like I'm actually really happy with 35mm film. There's not a lot of difference for me between 35 and 120. Of course, with 120, you've got those bigger negatives. But I'll tell you about my workflow. I shoot my film, I send it to the lab. My lab, Devon, scan it. My lab have two different types of scanning. They have the standard and the high res. The standard scanning for 35mm and for medium format gives you an image more or less the same size. The high res scanning for 35mm and 120 gives you an image more or less the same size. So if you're only getting them dev'd and scanned, these images, there really isn't that much of a difference, in my opinion, between 35mm and 120. Now, if you're doing home developing and home printing and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure a bigger negative will work way better for you. But personally for me and what I do, that bigger negative, it's kind of like wasted. I don't really need the bigger negative. I get great results from 35mm as it is. Now, if you really like the medium format look, if you really like the sort of the bokeh and all that kind of stuff from the medium format cameras, you know, I totally get why you would shoot it. And certainly if I shot more portraits and shot more fashion shoots and things like that, I would totally shoot more medium format. But certainly what I do when I do on road trips and stuff like that and traveling, you know, 35mm is enough for me. 35mm means I can take more shots in a roll. 35mm means I'm not changing the film as often. 35mm means smaller cameras, and I can actually take 2 cameras in my bag instead of the GA645. So for me personally, although this is a fantastic camera and I've loved using it, love the images, I don't think I would buy it at the moment. I just don't think it would give me anything over and above what I've already got. That's it for my review of the GA645. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'd love to hear what you think of my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think of my photos. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.